60 The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Jensen Huang is the CEO of NVIDIA, which is the most valuable company in the world. About 30,000 employees. In addition to that, he was on with Joe Rogan on Rogan's podcast, talking about, in part, his relationship with Trump, and he's been a pretty staunch supporter of Trump's policy vision for reindustrializing America and reigniting manufacturing in this country. He also offered some sort of personal stories about the interaction with the administration, like this one.
I still remember the first time I met him. And so this was, I'd never known him, never met him before. And Secretary Lutnick called, and we met right at the beginning of the administration. And he told me what was important to President Trump, that United States manufactures onshore. And that was really important to him because it's important to national security. He wants to make sure that the important critical technology of our nation is built in the United States, and that we reindustrialize and get good at manufacturing again, because it's important for jobs.
It just seems like common sense, right?
Incredible common sense. And that was like literally the first conversation I had with Secretary Lutnick. And he was talking about how that he started our conversation with Jensen. This is Secretary Lutnick. And I just want to let you know that you're a national treasure. NVIDIA is a national treasure. And whenever you need access to the president, the administration, you call us. We're always going to be available to you. Literally, that was the first sentence.
That's pretty nice.
And it was completely true. Every single time I called, if I needed something, I want to get something off my chest, express some concern, they're always available. Incredible.
Well, I mean, it's good to be accessible to key sectors and leaders within those sectors, particularly somebody whose company is basically propping up the stock market, in addition to employing all those people and creating all that wealth. So long as it doesn't sort of bleed over into too much rent-seeking behavior. But no, I mean, I like that story. And the important point about it is just sort of the commonsensical agenda of president when it comes to American industry. We can disagree about some of the approaches, but, he sets down the right marker. And it is exactly as Rogan said, commonsensical. Now compare that to the vision for the other side as presented by one of its erstwhile contenders for the nomination for president in 2028. That would be Governor Patrick Bateman of California, also known as Gavin Newsom. Don't get him started on Huey Lewis's sports album. He was invited to the New York Times DealBook confab, and this is what he offered in explanation for where his party needs to be, big picture, when it comes to economic vitality in this country. Listen to this and tell me if you don't think this is a word salad worthy of Kamala Harris.
We have a party that I think needs to design and develop a compelling economic vision for the future where people feel included, to reconcile the fact that if we don't democratize our economy, we're not going to save democracy. And I don't think it's healthy that we have 10% of people that own 2/3 the wealth in this country. I don't think it's sustainable practice. The folks watching Mr. Beast, disproportionately 30-year-olds, the first generation in history not doing better than their parents. There's some underlying issues here that have to be addressed. We have an economy that is broken for too many people. And I say that as someone that doesn't begrudge other people's success. I do that as someone that believes not in redistributive policies, believes in progressive tax policy, but is mindful that businesses can't thrive in a world that's failing. And I think that's foundationally and fundamentally what Trump understood. It's what people like AOC, Bernie, and Mandami understand from a narrative perspective. But the policies that shape that, I think, will also shape the comeback for the Democratic Party.
I don't believe in redistributionist policies except redistributing resources through a progressive income tax and other progressive tax policies. Right. I mean, democratize our economy to save democracy. There's a rallying cry. I don't know if that's going to really sing on a palm card. For more on this, pleased to be joined by Dan Lipinski. Of course, Dan served as a member of Congress from 2005 to 2021, Southwest Side, Illinois District 3, and his father before him, Bill. Dan, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
It's good to be with you, Dan. And I thought you were going to introduce me as the potential Democratic candidate for president.
Well, I mean, you're welcome to enter the fray. You can't do any worse than what I heard from Gavin Newsom.
Well, I think the last part of what he said was on target. It's some of these Democrats who are talking about the same problems that they see in our economy as Donald Trump has been talking about since he first ran in 2016. Democrats, I complained about this for years. Democratic Party forgot about the middle class, the working class, and that's where we went wrong, and that's why I wound up being ousted from the party, because I was still focused on those things and not on all the woke garbage that the party became.
Well, right. Unfortunately, Gavin Newsom's been focused on all the woke garbage, too, as governor of California, as that state's economic performance so indicates. So I don't know that he's the best spokesman. Maybe you are. And because you wrote a piece in The Hill where you see some real alignment between your attitudes about free and fair trade, effectively, and Trump's policy choices in the same direction.
Well, American manufacturing is critical for the working class, the middle class, and for our security. And there's no issue that I focused more on besides possibly transportation as manufacturing. I grew up on the Southwest Side, saw all these manufacturing plants close in the 80s and 90s, and I knew that we cannot have a successful country without a successful middle class. We can't have a successful middle class without making things. And Donald Trump understands this. I don't agree exactly with how he's gone about what he's doing right now, but he is trying to accomplish what I was working on when I was in Congress. And we need to have good jobs now for people who are want to raise a family, have good wages, have good benefits, building things, making things here in America.
Well, let's talk about where you're aligned and where you're not aligned a little bit. So let's start with where you're aligned when it comes to trade policy.
Well, I have no problem with putting tariffs on, but I think we should be focusing on China. I think I'm critical of the president for going after all these other countries. We need to be working with us to go after China. So I think you can't take a scattershot approach and go after everybody. You need to, Mexico and Canada. Donald Trump negotiated the new trade agreement with Mexico and Canada in his first term. So he understood we had to get rid of NAFTA. We need to have a better agreement there. But we should have moved forward here from a second term to say, hey, China is what we really need to worry about. So I would do that. And the other thing, this piece in The Hill, I wrote this because I don't hear anyone talking about it, and it's something that I worked on when I was in Congress, is anti-dumping. Companies in countries who are behind this, who dump products into the U.S. Steel was a big one back in the mid-2010s. Other countries were selling steel into our country at below cost for them to undermine our steel manufacturers. And again, I credit Donald Trump for looking at what was going on with the sale of U.S. Steel, figuring out what the right thing to do was, because we need these kind of companies in America, or else we cannot keep ourselves secure.
What do you think about the proposal that he resuscitated at a cabinet meeting earlier this week to do a sort of a tariff dividend check to Americans? You know, it's rumored to do a $2,000 check to Americans next year as part of the dividend from the tariffs that he has imposed and the revenue they have generated. Do you like that as a possible stimulative play by the president? Is that something that a moderate Democrat like yourself would sign on to?
At this point, I'd say no, because we have a $38 trillion debt and growing. We can't just keep giving these checks out. One of the last things I did in Congress was vote against sending COVID checks out. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people say that played a role when Democrats came in, took control of everything. Biden came in; those checks did go out. That played a role in the inflation under Joe Biden. Yeah. I don't think it's a good idea now. If the economy really has a terrible downturn next year, maybe that's something that would need to be considered to stimulate the economy. But right now, we need to focus. $38 trillion in debt. I don't think people have any idea what that means. I'm not with AOC, this new monetary policy, whatever she calls it, that you could just borrow however much money you want. We can't do that.
What do you think? I mean, this is a proposal from the free marketeers like Art Laffer and Stephen Moore. But what about something like a payroll tax reduction, even for a specific period of time? That sunsets after a year or 18 months. Reduce the federal payroll tax, which and divide it evenly between employer and employee to encourage employment and business reinvestment, as well as to improve the purchasing power of the median American family that's still seen real attrition in their purchasing power over the last 4 years.
Well, honestly, I'd have to take a look. This is exactly what was done under the Obama stimulus plan in 2009. That was one of the provisions in there. And I honestly don't know how much of impact it had. Maybe it did. I mean, look, I'm always for putting more money in people's pockets, but we need to do that through jobs. Better jobs, better paying jobs. I think that's more important because, go ahead.
What do you think about at the state level? I mean, I know your perspective was federal, but you represented 500,000 Illinoisans for 15 years. What the governor is doing at the state level when he goes on gambits like, taking $500 million and investing in a Chinese EV battery plant to locate in Manteno, Illinois.
This brings me back to the days of we're just talking about. I heard so many times from Republicans in Congress about Solyndra. This is a company that the U.S. government had invested money in. That I think it was solar panels that they were building. It went belly up. All that money was lost. And at that time, Republicans seemed, we're definitely not interested whatsoever in doing anything like that. But it seems like Donald Trump is taking the position now that, the U.S. has literally taken a position in some companies, which concerns me that we shouldn't be that involved. The U.S. government should not be a shareholder, I believe, in these companies. So I don't know that much about what Pritzker did, but I'm not a huge fan of Governor Pritzker, so I really question it.
Yeah, that's good. Join the club. No, and I agree with you too about taking the government taking a stake in companies like Intel. That's sort of the obnoxious industrial policy. Totally agree. With respect to you and the party to which you affiliate, assuming you still do, I mean, you look around the landscape in this country, even just with the recently concluded special election in Tennessee 7, and you don't see many Dan Lipinski style blue dog Democrats around anymore. Are you a fossil as it pertains to your party?
Well, in that Tennessee 7 election, if they had a blue dog running in that district, they may have had a chance instead of having this far left, the AOC of Tennessee running in that district. The party, Democratic Party, may have had a shot at winning that. The party I'm very concerned about. I'm incredibly concerned. I think next year is going to be a very good year for Democrats in midterm elections. I expect the Democrats to take the House. So you never know. 11 months is a long time. Mm-hmm. But I don't want to see the party become completely captured by the progressives and people like me completely pushed out. But we are on the verge of that right now, and I've been fighting against that. I have to say I call myself now an independent Democrat. So that's kind of where I'm at this point. We need two good parties in this country, and unfortunately, I don't see one good party in this country at this moment.
Well, I mean, sort of the need to add independent as a qualifier to Democrats sort of speaks to the matter, doesn't it?
Exactly.
Dan Lipinski, he served as a member of Congress from 2005 to 2021, Illinois 3, Southwest Side, Southwest Suburbs. Dan, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate your time as always.
Good to be with you, Dan.
And Dan Lipinski joined us on the Turnkey.Pro answer line.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer.
Your show keeps me alive during the week. There's nobody I'd rather listen to between 5 and 9 in the morning than you guys.
On AM 560, The Answer.
Get 2 mattresses for the price of 1.
Whoa! What are you doing?
We don't do sales at Penny Mustard.
I know.
So how can we offer 2 mattresses for the price of 1?
Because with a flippable, 2-sided foam or coil mattress from Penny Mustard, it's like having 2 mattresses for the price